1 out of every 34 children now has autism.
Ooh, that's a big
When
issue.
did that happen? And what happened?
I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking at my high school experience, I don't remember a kid with autism in my grade. Do you guys had anybody with autism?
I saw it on TV.
You had one?
I think it's where I would see autism.
It was very rare.
It's the same thing. I don't remember kids having cancer when I was a kid either.
No, not at all.
Not
And
cancer,
I
not diabetes.
had a few friends that were fat as well, but it wasn't like
Not very
they grew
many.
out of it very quickly. You know?
Because they're out there playing and
Yeah.
everything else. By high school, the chunkier kids
Yeah.
definitely kind of got their
So all
grew into themselves. That's
Yeah.
what it always was.
You
They'll
grew up-
grow into it.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I heard it a lot.
He'll slim down when he gets
yeah.
older.
So for example, like fat kids, cancer in kids, autism rate. I don't remember.
Diabetes in kids.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody having these things when I was a kid. Like
Well, autism is huge now. It's
is.
all
it's
over
insane.
the place.
And it's grown exponentially. I was
There's
looking at a
schools specifically for kids with autism.
yes, and it's 1 in 34. You say 136.
1 in 34.
134. Probably in the 2000s, it was like 1 in 150, and it keeps getting, you know. But and we were talking about this that day. We were like, because the argument with autism rates is that everybody brings up the concept of, well, now we have better screening procedures and we can diagnose it, whereas before we couldn't diagnose it, and therefore there were less numbers. But that is not true.
No. Yeah, when someone has autism,
You know.
depending on where they are in the spectrum, you know.
Yeah.
A teacher who's in a classroom with 20 students and one is either not able to focus in the same way or pick things up in the same way, they know. But it's crazy. And I mean, right now I have a nephew and a niece that are autistic. I have a cousin who's autistic. They're all under 9 years old.
Yeah, it's unnormal.
And not only are there more kids diagnosed with it, but like I feel like the severity has increased greatly.
These nonverbal
Very much
autistic
so.
kids that have they do a lot of the stimming. That's not normal.
One thing that I would say more than just, seeing this kids 1 in 33, 1 in 36, whatever.
34, but either
1 in 34.
Today, tomorrow, it will be something.
It might
different.
change again.
You know the thing that stucks with me the most, because it's your kid, right? You're gonna love them
No matter.
the same,
Regardless,
no matter
yeah.
what. Let's say you have 4 kids, 1 is autistic, you're gonna love them the equal. But the thing that I think the most is what happens when those parents are gone.
That's a tough one. How are they going to survive? Yeah.
Especially if they're very high.
That is one of those things that it's like sticks with me, and why wouldn't you want to make a change just because of that reason?
Let's figure this out. Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues. I know when RFK was, they were drilling him with questions, and Rand Paul talked about it. It's like, hey, our autistic rates are extremely high. Shouldn't we be asking questions right now? Whether it's the vaccines, whether it's the food that we eat, whether it's something in the genes, let's figure this out. This is not a partisan issue. And when we look at autism, the challenge is that it's very tricky.
Yeah.
It's a syndrome, right? And it's usually not caused by one thing, but it's caused by a lot of things at the same time. Yeah. And then they talked about, because I've been looking at this, the medical profession is always going to say it's genetic, because that's their go-to. Every medical doctor, instead of asking questions, they're always going to say it's in your gene, and because you have your gene says this, you're going to get that. Okay. But that's not true, right? The new science, epigenetics, tells us that, yeah, you might have the gene for this, but that gene is going to get expressed, or it's going to get turned on based on the choices that you make on a regular basis. And what we're seeing right now with a lot of these autistic kids is it's not only that, but then you got to look at the 3 types of stressors that people go through on a regular basis. You got to look at emotional stress, chemical stress, and you got to look at physical stress. So it's a cumulative effect. So again, the cup it starts from even before the baby's born, right? You're looking at the food that mom ate. You're going to look at the medications that mom was taking. You're going to look at like we talked about, microplastics in the mom's bloodstream or forever chemicals that have been accumulating in that mom, then the baby is developing the uterus. How much stress did mom go through in the process? Was the baby in good position? Were they all crooked up in there? Did they have then the birthing process? Was it a natural birth? Was it a medicalized, very highly interventional birth? Was it a C-section? You know, they keep stacking up, and then that baby's born, and let's say they have colic, so they give them Marilax, whatever it is, and then they have an ear infection. Instead of letting the body heal, they put antibiotics, disrupting the gut bacteria. Then they get a little bit older, they have a fever, they give them Tylenol, and it's like it's this perfect storm that is just brewing. And then at the end of the day, every condition that we have, it's a toxicity or a deficiency, right? And unfortunately, with these autistic kids, it's usually a toxicity of all these stressors coming together, and the body now goes, and the brain goes into a state of fight or flight, and then the body cannot turn off, or the kid doesn't know where the brakes are, and now we have a big issue.
Doesn't it seem, and I could be wrong, but often it seems like they don't see autism in kids until the kids are a little bit older. Like, and I mean that by not an infant. I mean like 3, 4, 5,
Correct.
6.
Usually it's when they start developing speech. And
that's when they notice
slow
it.
with speech. Yeah. It's kind of a signal. Let's get them tested to see if that's why.
The output part. Or when we think about, this is all neurology, right? A baby or a kid develops based upon the input that they receive from their 7 senses, right? We have 5 senses and then 2 more. You have the eyesight, the ears, nose, taste, touch, but then you have movement and you have balance, right? So those are the 2 that people don't talk about, but movement and balance also integrates to the brain to develop the brain, essentially. So they're getting all these senses going in there, and that's forming their brain. But what if the way that these senses come back and the information that goes into your brain gets disrupted? Now they have poor input, therefore the output gets affected, right? For example, when you look at an autistic kid, they do something called stimming. Stimming is just doing this a lot. What they're trying to do is get input. They're trying to get input back into the brain. And a lot of these kids are either their volume, it's too high, so they're overstimulated, their brain. That's why a lot of these kids, if they're in hectic scenarios or there's a lot of loud music, it'll make it worse. But there's other ones that are the opposite, that need stimulation, because they're nonverbal. They don't do anything, So it's, at the end of the day, it's an issue with stimulation and output. That's why chiropractic works so well with these kids.
I was going to say, doesn't chiropractic care help a lot? And I would question is if you got infants, because you can't, like, people don't think that you can get an infant adjusted, but you can.
You can.
Sure can.
And,
hours in.
And here's the thing, isn't it, do you think, I should ask, that if you get an infant adjusted along the way, you may never see, even if they had some of those tendencies or genes or whatever you want to say, you might never see it.
Yep, those are the best miracles in chiropractic, the ones that never happen.
That you never even know.
You never knew because you did the right stuff all throughout the way.
I remember we had a patient in Colorado. You remember the Mexican family?
That was tough.
The kid was like 8 or 9 years old, really tall, nonverbal. If anything, he would just be coming in screaming. And the mom, oh my God, beautiful family.
It was tough though.
She was just like, I don't know what to do. I want the best for my kids. I just want to try this out. He would come in, like, same thing. Like, it was just a lot of stimulation. Think about, like, it was a big office, a lot of people, the music coming from the outside too, driving. The kid would be like, like screaming, like throughout the whole thing. Dr. Dan, you would adjust him too, but Dr. Dan and Dr. Andres would adjust this kid, and this kid will like melt in the adjusting room. There were days that the kid, it was just too much, and it was hard to calm him down, and you guys respected that. We're not gonna go too far because sometimes you respect those boundaries. But there were times that the kid will be screaming, get in the adjusting room, and then it will be like,
that's super chill, and that's
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That was my first time seeing something like that. That was amazing.
Yeah, from a chiropractic perspective, because again, when it comes to autism, it's just tough because I mean, I feel like these moms that unfortunately have an autistic kid, these kids are blessed because they have the best moms that they want to do the best thing for them, but there's not a lot of options out there, unfortunately. right? There's, if anything, they'll go probably to their pediatrician. They'll get a diagnosis. They'll get their label. Medication. And that's it. Take these meds, do this thing, do this therapy, and you're done. But chiropractic is great for it because it helps. Number one, those kids are overstimulated and their brain is just firing like a Ferrari, but the body has bicycle brakes. There's different parts of the spine that you can work on to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is the braking mechanism of the body. And that would immediately shut down the nervous system and the kid will chill out. And then on the other hand, the ones that are like pretty much stuck on the brake, you do the opposite. You stimulate other areas of the spine, which will open up or turn on different parts of the brain so they can actually go back to their true self. So you can work different parts of the spine and stimulate different sections of it. Chiropractic is a great tool. The question is how many moms know about this, right? The second part is how many of these moms know that you can actually do a great job with nutrition to help with the function of the brain as well. Detoxing as well. How can detox help these? Let's assume that a lot of the autism or the symptoms were caused by toxicity throughout the process. Do they know how to get rid of this, you know? And I think moms with autistic kids are blessed because they do a great job for the kids. They research till the end of their days, you know, but it's just tough. And chiropractic is a great tool for those kids.
Well, and it's interesting too because, as you said, it's toxicity. So those people who don't have children yet, what are some things to be aware of? And I know that you sent me an article not that long ago about the fact that they're looking at infant formula, which a lot of kids use formula now, which also may affect.
That's a big issue. Yeah.
What's going on?
Consumer Reports, they looked at 41 different types of formula brands, and they found that half of them have heavy metals in higher amounts than what the EPA recommends. So again, EPA, corrupt, what is it called?
Corrupt corporation.
Corporation, pretty much, right? Or government agency, right? Government agency, yeah. And they're still acknowledging that it's at amounts that are not normal. They're finding that a lot of these formulas have Gen X chemicals, which is the same thing as forever chemicals, the plastics and everything. They just changed the name, by the way, because they say they're better and it's easier for the body to get rid of them, but they're still the same thing. They found allergens in these formulas. So these formulas are actually not healthy.
A lot of them have high fructose corn syrup in them too.
They're terrible, right? So that's and one of the things when it comes to autism, it's toxicity, right? It's that buildup of toxins and the body's way of getting rid of it. And so now RFK and HHS, they're trying to look into these formulas to see what the heck is going on. And hopefully they'll punish those corporations that are putting these heavy metals in them. And probably some of these corporations might not even know that these things are in it, but it's still their fault for not having quality control.
Responsibility, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, just being aware of the fact, like, anybody and everybody who's responsible for kids, who has a niece, who has a nephew, who has anybody, like, just talking about it. Like you were saying earlier, Hennis, is just being open to the conversation. Because I know, like, often, like, if you find, like, you have somebody, your niece or nephew that has autism, you don't want to be like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried? Because people get very defensive. Right. And I get it. It's got to be so challenging.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed.
So challenging. So how can we help society in the world? Like, because you don't want to judge people. You don't want to, like, tell them. Because it's not the one-size-fits-all approach necessarily. So what are some things we can do as a culture and as individuals to kind of help with what's going on right now?
First, I would say it would be helpful if we didn't ostracize those children. For sure. We need to teach our kids that there are kids out there that have this condition and that they needed to be treated in a respectful way. That makes their lives infinitely more difficult. And really getting the parents to be active in the kids' lives as well. I try to have the kids be in some sort of a sport so that they're exercising. I try not to judge the parent when the kids are exhibiting a behavior that's not what we're used to. They'll get loud and non-verbally making a lot of noise, and you can't be one of those parents who just look at how their kids are acting. You can never.
You can't be
that way.
judgmental.
You know, like you can't be that type of person. We need to be open as a society, because it all starts here. We don't need the government to dictate how we treat each other. We need to do that all on our own. And then also it ties in that one of the things they found is that mothers, from a prenatal perspective, mothers who are obese or have diabetes are at higher risk of having children with autism.
I didn't know that.
And so full circle,
Take care of yourself.
helping get our society under control and get the diabetes and some of these chronic illnesses is big. And it's bigger than just we have overweight people, because it's tying into so many facets, including things like autism and how it can affect the children.
Have you ever heard of Pottinger's cats?
No.
Never
Who's
heard of
that?
Pottinger's cats? So it's a study,
The
right?
one where the cat's dead and alive at the same time. in the
No,
box.
it's the one that every generation of cats, as you denature their food, every generation gets exponentially worse,
Oh,
right?
Sounds like
But here's the problem.
sounds like America.
Exactly. But that's yeah. But here's the problem. You should read the study. It's really fascinating. But here's the problem. I don't remember the exact number, so this is not the exact. But say it took 5 generations to go from like healthy to very unhealthy, straight from when they're born. It took like double or triple to get back by putting healthy food back in, right? But that's what it is. What you're saying is you're like, the best thing you can do is make yourself healthy.
absolutely.
I've seen some articles talk about Tylenol consumption, medication consumption as well throughout the pregnancy can affect and increase the chances of having an autistic kid as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, even it's kind of like that whole, what is it, the interplay between an individual's genetic makeup and then the environmental exposures together that just throw everything out of whack. It's tough. Autism's tough.
Yeah, that's
Mrs.,
a tough
what
one.
do you think, as somebody who wants to be a mom someday, have kids someday, what do you do now to help your child that you don't even have yet?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I do it already. I exercise. I play sports my whole life, and I think that was ingrained in me with my dad, my brother, my family in general, encouraging me to not just, I mean, you were saying it earlier, when we were kids, we need an outlet. It's not just school. It's you have to have another part in your life where that energy can put into something, and that develops other skills like leadership and stuff. But now growing up, I remember my dad always telling me, once you hit 30 as a woman, your body's gonna change. You're young now, but you gotta. And he was always planting that seed in me, like, you know, talking to your kids. Your kids are sponges. You know, what you pour into them, the way you act. I remember things that my mom would tell me when I was 10. And now I'm like, okay, like I'm past 30. I want to build a family. I need to make sure that I'm exercising, that I'm eating right, because I want to set myself up for success, not failure. And then you said it, you have to start now.
Eating well,
So my kids.
Well, and reducing toxicity as well. Like you're big on that thing. When it comes to products of the kitchen, of the bathroom, you're always trying to figure out, what does this thing have, and can it affect my hormones, and can it disrupt my endocrine system?
But you're not exempt, because babies
No,
have
it's both sides.
50%.
Right.
But I feel like so many dads go, well, it's not up to me, it's up to them.
No, but
but it's
mean,
not. It's 50% you.
both of us.
Sometimes it's like sometimes I know, like, something. I mean, I have it, but something as simple as having Wi-Fi in your house.
Turn it off at night, though.
Huh?
Seriously, turn it off.
I mean,
I
that's
just
a
go
good.
to bed very
That's
late.
a good idea, but sometimes he's
you can set a timer on it. No, literally, you can get one of those timers where it turns those.
We got to
switches.
bring that lady that deals with EMF.
Yeah,
so she can.
we need, and I think I remember you guys talking about that too.
You just put
You
it.
guys
But you
have
know
it.
those timers, those manual timers that turn like Christmas lights on and off.
Oh,
you
I
can
know what you're talking
literally
about.
plug
Okay.
it in it's your Wi-Fi router,
Yeah.
and that way, say you stay up until 10 reading, well, you can set it so it turns off at 11
Reading and
and
the
turns off
TV.
at 4 and turns back on at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Well, at least then you got 5 hours where EMFs aren't.
It's not messing
that's
you
a
up.
good idea. And then also like the computer. Sometimes you have your computer on you, and I'm like, just put that on the table. Don't put that.
But they also
there.
have these shielding blankets you can put on, and then you can put it, or mats.
Is it made out of lead or something? 'Cause
It's something that helps to keep the radiation from going straight to your skin. So
But anyway, now just
talk
take
about
care
you
of
now.
yourself and
take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself.
Reducing toxins, toxicity, stress levels. I think the prepping your body for pregnancy for a mom is probably going to be as important as taking care of themselves throughout the pregnancy. But that prep, where I mean, you cannot expect to live an unhealthy life till you're 29 and then trying to fix everything while they're pregnant. It's extremely hard. You'll see. I think, and again, I'm not in the position to tell moms what to do, obviously, but I think if I was a mom, right, I would start to prep my body for it and make sure that I start to make the healthy decisions now. So when the moment happens, that my body has the best chances of delivering a healthy baby.
And if for some reason that doesn't happen, don't stop. It's the same thing we said earlier.
I did my work.
Well, and here's the thing. Don't say, oh, it's hopeless, I can't do anything. Take to go get chiropractic care.
Yeah,
Start
keep
eating
doing
healthy
it.
food
This is
now.
what we got.
Any last words?
No, I think there's hope for a lot of these autistic kids, but I highly encourage people to keep pushing and try to figure out why is this happening. Don't take what the government is saying for just for what it is. I don't want people saying it's like, yeah, we have higher rates just because we have genetics or because what was I was saying earlier? Because our screening systems have gotten better. It's like, no, we got to ask the tough questions. That's what science is there.